Alright, so, whoops, sorry about this, I messed up. So we're going to start over again. So the first thing we're going to look at today is how to find the exact units, the x and y coordinates, excuse me. So if we were to draw this in, here's 35. It's on the unit circle, so we know our hypotenuse is 1. But it's a reference angle, so we don't really, of 35, so we don't know the x and y. But if we were to, let's say, solve for x, we could say the cosine of 35, the adjacent over hypotenuse, well, that's just equal to x, and opposite over hypotenuse, the sine of 35 equals y over 1, which is y. So the exact values would just be the cosine of 35 and the sine of 35. Because this side we know is the cosine of 35, and our vertical we know is the sine of 35. So if we look at 145, that's terrible there, is in this quadrant, and 145 to 180, we have 35. Again, our hypotenuse is 1, x and y, and we notice it's the same thing. X would be the cosine of 35, y would be the sine of 35, but we have to notice x is going backwards, so that's negative x, so it would be negative cosine. So this coordinate would be negative cosine of 35 and the sine of 35. So what is slope? What do you guys remember? Well, rise over run, the change in y over the change in x. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at it as these triangles here. And we've made slope triangles, and we said y over x. If we were to find those distances, y and x, it'd be y over x. So the first thing we're asked to do is find another word for slope, which is gradient, which we'll be using, of a line which presents a positive angle of 130 with the x-axis. And that's just meaning it's in that standard form that we've been using. So 130, well, 130, this would be 50. And we need to find the slope. So let's just say we need to find the slope between those points, and that distance is 1, x, y. So the cosine of 50, so katoa, x over 1, which is x, sine of 50, y over 1, which is y. And if we type these in here, we're in degrees, so trig cosine of 50, trig sine of 50. So we have 0.643 and 0.766. 0.643, 0.7, and I already forgot what that was, 766. But again, I'm going to pay attention, it's in this quadrant, so this has to be negative. So slope, the rise over run, would be 0.766 over negative 0.643. So 0.766 divided by negative 0.643, negative 1.19. And there's our slope. So the next thing we're asked to do is find the gradient of this line shown here. And this is one where we know this reference angle. So if we say this is 1, opposite 60 is root 3 over 2, 30, 60, 90, so negative half. So if we were to do rise over run, opposite over adjacent, we would have negative root 3. And our slope is negative, so that makes sense there. So this next one, find the equation of a line passing through the origin and point P. So y equals mx plus b, but we know our y-intercept is going to be 0. So again, here's point P. Let's just say it's right here. So we know that this is 0.674, 0.738. So rise over run, our slope, 0.738 over 0.674. 0.738 divided by 0.6774, 1.09. And it's positive, so y equals 1.09x plus 0. So we can just write 1.09x. So the next one, we need to find the equation of the line and theta. And theta, it's just talking about that measurement right there. So let's see here. Find the equation of a line. Let's passing through the origin again. So in y equals mx plus b, this is going to be 0. And let's see if we were to make this into a right triangle, negative 4.1, negative 2.2. So our slope, negative 4.1 over negative 2.2. Negative 4.1 divided by negative 2.2, so 1.86. So we have our equation 1 equals 1.86x plus 0. So we just have 1.86x. Then to find that angle, well, we can find this angle. Let me mark it here. Because that's, if we were to find that part, that's opposite over adjacent. So that's tangent, but we're finding an angle. So we could say the inverse tangent, and maybe I'll put an x in there, of angle x equals negative 4.1, negative 2.2. So trig tan inverse. Oh, and I have that fraction. I'm just going to grab that. So 61.8 degrees. So if this is 61.8 degrees, that's a straight line 180. So 180 minus 61.8 degrees. $118.2 degrees. Alright, and let's see, what is the last thing? Find the gradient of a line which forms a positive angle with the x-axis of 135. So here's our 135. Well, we know this is 45. Well, that's kind of nice because we know it's a 45.5 or 45.90. So our rise over run, square root of 2 over 2 divided by negative root 2 over 2. So it is negative 1.